Welcome to WatchTalk. My name is
Hello.
Adam from Renaissance Watches, and I'm excited to do this new kind of podcast where we're doing it online. Let me introduce Giuseppe. Thank you for taking the time all the way from Italy during a stormy period, as you said, to have a talk with me.
Indeed. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope you are okay.
Yes, I think I'm fine. Over here, it's pretty calm. I would say we have a little bit of wind, but not too bad. Can you introduce yourself to the people that don't know you yet?
Okay. Hello to everybody. I'm Giuseppe Totaro, and I was born and I live in Florence, Tuscany, Italy. And I'm I would say, long-time collector about especially vintage watches and also high-end watches. And since 2 years now, I'm also a watch dealer with some business partners, and we have a shop in the center of Florence. So I'm enjoying in the complete way the passion of watches.
That's amazing, and I want to hear about that. But before the most important question, what are you wearing on your wrist today?
Oh, I'm wearing my Lange Lange one
Wow,
North Face in yellow gold. Yeah. It's 3 days that I'm wearing it, and I'm enjoying it, and it's a very nice timepiece. Yeah.
it's a beautiful classic. So how long have you had this watch?
I bought this watch when my son born, so in 2018, and it is a lovely watch that was made in 2007 and it was originally sold in Kuwait City.
Wow,
So yeah, really.
that's really cool. I think Lange Zone nowadays is kind of more popular than it used to be. It used to be pretty undervalued, I think, for a long time, being, I guess, German brands. But I think nowadays you're getting more credit, which they obviously deserve.
Yes, being part of a big group, it's maybe helps in some way, but maybe it's worse for other things. But yeah, much more people now knows about Lange Zone, and it's great history. Yeah. And what do you have on your wrist today?
I have like IWC caliber 88.
Oh
So for
wow.
each vintage piece, was my wedding watch. I got married in May, and this was the watch that a friend of mine who is a watchmaker, he found it somewhere, and I was like, I have to have this. It's a perfectly watch to wear with a suit. Iconic caliber 88, caliber 89 are like beautiful hand finished.
Beautiful finishing and beautiful shapes. Yeah, I
Yes.
love that movements. Yeah.
So that's what I'm wearing now. I guess people that know me a little bit know that I mostly wear like dressy kind of watches. But I'm also curious to know, like you say you're a long-term collector, of course, you're also a dealer, but how did you get like started with the passion with watches?
I was always curious about mechanical things in general, but I'm an engineer, so I studied civil engineer, sorry. Um, and after I ended my university studies, I started working in an office, designing HVAC systems and engineering things. And then I always stopped at the Windows shops to see watches, but I wasn't able to understand the real value that these things had inside. And then one day I decided to to start reading about watches online and I discovered an Italian watch forum, and since that day it it all started. I was always checking about new articles, new posts, new, and starting meeting new people. It helped me a lot to understand that it was not just a curiosity, but it was something more that I was very interested about watches, and I was very interested since the beginning about the great history that each watch has behind. So the great history, the great craftsmanships, and so that's how I started to be curious and my passion started. Yeah.
I can relate. As you know, I also like vintage watches mostly, which is also, I guess, the connection with the history, with like, I guess when watches were still primarily a tool that people used before nowadays, where it is more like jewelry for most people. Of course, we don't need it; our life doesn't depend on it. But I'm curious, how did it like develop your taste in watches from when you were beginning till now? Can you tell me more about this journey?
Yeah, I started from vintage, so my passion, my curiosity was on the history and the evolution of watchmaking and the evolution of the models. So it was quite natural for me to develop a taste about quality, about because in the 40, the 30, 40, 50s, the medium quality was higher than today. So there were less brands, and the quality that they had was higher. So studying about this kind of watches made me realize and understand what was the part that I was more curious about, and I would say movements, but a long time I've also understand how case design is very important, and the dial design and the dial making is very important. So I would say studying vintage helped me a lot to refine my taste is about watches. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing that you noted. I kind of agree, but maybe you can explain why, in your opinion, the average quality of watches was better back then than it is now. I think a lot of people will not agree.
But I mean, in the kind of watches that I was passionate, I was and I am passionate about. So let's say the simple watches, so three hands watches or maybe chronograph, not something more. But the total production of watches were less important than today. So the number was low, and the methods of they used to build these watches were the traditional methods and the traditional machines, and the human part was very important to reach the final result. It is nowadays still, but nowadays each brands have a big help from CNC, from computer, from automatic machines. So that's why I consider that the quality was. I mean, maybe not the. It's not easy to define how you evaluate quality. So in my kind of view about quality, I much prefer the 14, the 50, and the 30 because the watchmaker was able to adjust all the parts and to make the watch work in a standard that was anyway uh, important that time. So they were able to do amazing timepieces without the help of any computer, without the help of any other machine. If you think that they made a repetition minute, they made rattrapante, they made split second, they made a lot of things that nowadays seems wow, amazing, but they were still 100 years ago. And so I appreciate that they were able to do it by themselves.
So for you, if I understand correctly, the quality is about how much human effort it takes and how much human creativity it takes to build something. Because like I agree with you, the communications nowadays are pretty much the same, mostly as they were back then. But then they did not have the automated machinery or computers to help them.
Yeah.
So I think that I think I agree with that. I think that's also why back then I think the understanding of craftsmanship is very different from nowadays, especially after the quartz crisis, right? Then watches had to find a new identity than back then.
Yeah. Nowadays, watches have to adjust to a new market that it's huge, but it has completely different needs. So I prefer the way the market was 8 years ago because it was more romantic, let's say. So that's why I prefer it.
Are there any, like you said, you like mostly like simple watches? Maybe chronograph is the max of complicated watches. Are there any specific like brands or other things that you collect or look out for?
Yeah, referring to 30s and 40s and 50s, I would say Longines, Eberhard, Eterna. These are three brands that I've always tried to collect, to study about, and Omega too, of course. I would say these three, four, yeah.
That's like also brands I like. Like, can you tell me why you like, for example, Longines? Like, I have my own opinion, but I'm curious why Longines, which is now considered not like, especially with the modern Longines, which is doing nice stuff for the modern time, but it's not comparable, of course, in quality to what it was back then.
Of course, but in the if you start thinking about pocket watches and then the first wrist watches that were made, Longines was the top higher brand that made the most lovely refined chronographs with 13.33 movements, 13.ZN movements, and they were able to put these lovely, amazing movements inside the great case and great dial, and so the overall result that Longines had is amazing compared to the other brands that to the competitors they had at that time. So the amount of lovely, amazing models that they made in 20 years is hardly comparable with other brands. So if you think about, I would say in Italian, tre tacche, so the three notches case with three hands, but also with chronographs. So with the sommatore centrale, there are amazing models, all the models connected to the aviation. So the Wims, the Limburg, the big stop seconds. They had really a quantity of different models and styles, and they were always able to do it in a wonderful way. So it's easy that for the collectors that loves 30, 40, and 50 years, it's quite easy to listen about Longines because they really was at the top.
I agree. I think, especially the chronographs that you're talking about are like wildly appreciated, I think, in the collecting community. Do you think there's any watches that people could look out for, maybe young collectors from Longines, maybe that are a little bit more affordable to get into it?
A way to start collecting in general watches, vintage watches, is of course to try to buy good three hands watches. So, but following some basic rules that are that the movement needs to be a good looking one, and I suggest each collectors to trust about their own eyes. So if they like what they see, maybe just try to understand why you like it, but maybe there's a way and there's a reason why you like it. Steel case, so not chromed case or so thing. It's better to have a steel case, a complete steel case, and maybe the dimension about 35 millimeters, 36 millimeters, and you can really find a lot of watches that are in this field, and not only about Longines, but of course also with Zenith, Omega, and I think this may be a good way to start because it's not expensive, but you can still buy quality. So the quality that they had on these simple watches is absolutely the same that they put on the more expensive ones that now are really appreciated by collectors. So 13L movement or 12.68 Zeta. There are a lot of very nice movements that are absolutely still working good today after 80 years, and so I would suggest to start from a classic watch.
I agree. I think I never stopped collecting classic watches, and that's mostly what I do nowadays. I'm curious, what do you think when with Longines, like there's some lines that I personally really like that seem to be still good buys, I think. For Longines, for example, Ultra Chrons, I think are very nice. If you want something a little bit different with the high beat movement, and they find a lot of different designs, but also Conquest also
Yeah,
seems
nice.
very nice. What do you think
Yeah,
about?
yeah, Longines made very nice and nice designs also in the 60s and the 70s. So definitely there are a lot of lines and a lot of kind of watches that can be the right one. And if maybe the watches from the 60s and the 70s are more funky, are more, the look is more sporty, more interesting maybe for a young person. So it's anyway a good start. Starting from a good brand is it's difficult to find bad things. Of course, Longines had to cross the quartz crisis, so they were able to keep the production on mechanical movements. Of course, they used a lot of quartz movement too, but in general, maybe it's it's a bit a risk to buy watches from the beginning of the 80s to the end of the 80s. It's a period of time that in general was not so great about quality and about design. But this only not for Longines, but I mean for quite all the brands, apart maybe some crazy like Daniel Roth or
I have a question
something.
on. I'm curious what you think about. I have actually right here. It's from 1979. It's a Longines. It's I don't know if you can see it. It's with
Nice case.
case with solid silver dial. It's a little bit funky. It's a little bit different. Um, I think I agree with you. You cannot compare to, let's say, 30s, 40s, 50s, or even 60s. But I think it can be a nice addition if you already have some more classical watches in your collection.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I agree.
Do you also, like in your collection, do you have any grill that you're looking for at the moment that really gonna top it up?
Since we started dealing things, I must say that I touched a lot of watches that I didn't maybe put much attention before. So now to say a grail, it's something quite impossible because there are really a lot of amazing watches out there. There are a lot of rare things that a collector would love to add in his own collection. So I don't think I have really a grail. Maybe coming back to Longines, there are some few vintage that I will really love to have in my collection, but I think that it's too late to find it because the production was low and they are really loved by many people since 20 years. So nowadays it's quite impossible to find new watches in the market. So it is possible, of course, to obtain it, but maybe trading other things. And I don't like so much to trade my watches. So I don't know. Who knows?
What are the watches you wear the most, like in your collection?
Oh, I try to use it all, but it depends on the period of time. Maybe during winter, gold watches are maybe the ones that I prefer, and during the summer and spring, maybe steel watches are better because in Italy it's quite hot, so it's not the best things to use gold watches with leather bands. So
I agree. That's why, like, I finally got some steel watches because most of my watches have always been dress watches with leather straps, and then in summer, especially in the beginning of my collecting, I kind of ruined quite a lot of expensive straps. that way. When it gets hot or you're traveling, it's kind of a pity.
It's dangerous to buy a lot of straps because it's a nice it's a nice part. If you like watches, of course, it's easily that you can like also straps or boxes or not and all the things that are around the watch. But you have to pay attention if you want to use leather straps because when it's really hot, it's easy to destroy the strap. So
I agree. That's why now I'm kind of taking better care of it, I think.
yeah.
Can you tell me, like, in your collecting, what has been like the if you have maybe the mistakes you have made that maybe people can learn from?
Oh, wow. I don't remember it all, thank God. But I think that every collector's made a lot of mistakes usually, and but it's the only way to really start learning about something. So I was lucky to starting buying after reading a lot on forums after so and I had some friends that I met in the forums that helped me with the first purchases, and so it's easy if you want to grab an opportunity, it's easy to make a mistake. So if you are on eBay and you look to something that looks maybe a bargain, you can decide to click immediately buy it now, and after that you can start to ask yourself, well, what what you bought. But I mean, it's part of the game. So it depends on the kind of collector you want to be. So if you want to be a perfect collector, it's easier to buy from good dealers and good collectors, and so you feel safer, of course. But I always enjoyed it a lot to buy watches in from difficult situations. So eBay was one of them, but also Facebook groups, and it's a part of the joke. And of course, sometimes I made mistakes, but if you put inside the mistake also someone who want to uh, steal from you, and so maybe he has not the watch, but he wants the money. So it's all part of the game of watch hunting. I mean.
I agree. I think that the treasure hunting is part of the fun, right? Finding in a weird place watches. I do it sometimes on like Viva Dutch eBay called Marktplaats. Actually, I found quite some cool watches over there over the years. It's not that often, but sometimes randomly uh, you meet really nice people on there that maybe don't know so much about watches, or maybe sometimes they do. I think it's
Uh,
nowadays easier for
there's
me.
not a certain rule about buying in this situation. So, but in general, if you want to avoid errors in general when you buy watches, maybe patience is the key to not do so much errors. So if you want to buy something and maybe it's something new, then so you can easily find it apart from two or three brands. And maybe you have to try it on. Maybe you have to ask to a friend that maybe has the watch uh, to see it in the flesh, to put it on your wrist, and to understand the feeling that you have with the watch. Because some nowadays it's easy and it's common to buy things from a picture, from a video, but the feeling that you have with the watch is completely a game changer. So if you sometimes it happened to me to put a watch on the wrist and to don't like the feeling of the watch. So maybe it was too heavy or maybe too light, and also
Examples.
the shape is important. So it must fit correctly on your wrist, and so maybe a good suggestion is to have a lot of patience. Yeah.
I agree. It's either you buy the seller, you buy from a trusted source, or you do your research, uh, put in the time to be able to judge for yourself where you buy it from. I think that
Yeah,
are the good options. But
yeah.
you just said there are watches that you were different in real life from pictures. Do you have some examples of watches that were positively and negatively different for you?
Oh, okay, it happened with a watch that I really, really love still, but it was the Pascal Coyon Chronometer.
Oh, yeah.
He's a French watchmaker that does a few watches per year, and he made a really lovely chronometer certified by Besacon Observatoire. So it was really a nice watch, but the case was too light. So the watch was big because it was around 41 millimeters, but the feeling of the watch on the wrist, it was like not having the watch on the wrist. I mean, you see it, but you don't feel it. And now he is doing the same watch in a with the gold case, and I'm sure that it's the perfect watch because the movement was amazing, the finishing was amazing, and the look of the watch was really great. But this was maybe the most good example about the watches that I had and I have to sell because I was not using it enough because the feeling of the watch on my wrist was not the one that I expected. I mean,
That makes sense. I think for me, watches I had that with is Omega Dynamic. I think the old school ones. I really like them on pictures. I even still have one. But on the wrist, I think the case size
Mhm.
good for me. I think with my small wrists, I think that it was too loud a little bit for me. I think.
Yeah, yeah, of course. The diameter is important to. So I had huge watches, and I have one still because it's a Longines Wims from the 30s, so it's 47 millimeters. But when the watch has so much history, you appreciate it anyway. Also, if the diameter is too a little bit too much for your wrist, but you have to think that it's a unique piece, and you cannot choose the 45 millimeters because it was not made by at that time. So, but if you buy a new watch, a new, so I mean something that it's in production, it's better to feel it, the watch on your wrist, and to check if the feeling is good because you cannot buy only by pictures. You can do it once you know exactly the case maker, the brand, and so you already know how it will be on your wrist. But otherwise, it's better to try it on.
I agree. I think though the more watches you try on, like also the better of understanding you get what works for you, what does not work for you. So I
Mm.
think that also helps. That at some point you get to a point where you understand better before you can try on the watch. This will work for me or this will not work for me.
Mm.
I'm curious because you said about big watches. You're Italian. What do you think about Panerai then? It's kind of this.
Panerai. You know, I'm from Florence, so Panerai has its roots in Florence. So Panerai was an exceptional company that made instruments for the military, Italian military aviation, and so the history of Panerai is amazing, amazing. Of course, they were really able to make it a brand, but it's difficult to keep to be loyal to that great history and to sell thousands of watches around the world. So I think that they made the good things, but the nowadays Panerai are not really. In general, there are some good ones in the nowadays production, but in general are not my favorite. But regarding the history that Panerai had, and I mean in general the company Panerai, so all the instruments that they made for military use. It's really amazing. In the 60, starting from the 40, 50, 60, they made really low watches, but they were Swiss watches because they had movements from Switzerland. The case, I think they had it from Rolex and or anyway from Switzerland. So, but they had very good ideas about lume, so the sandwich dial and the Radomir. So they had a really unique brevets about to allow the visibility of the watch under the water. So so the history that Panerai has is really huge and important. It is not easy nowadays to be loyal to this great history and to have an industrial brand as Panerai is.
Is there any Panerai that you would that you think is the truest to its heritage and that you would like to have in your collection?
I had one, now I don't have it anymore, but it was really nice, and it was the 915. But also the 914 is nice. In general, all the 300 meters screw back are okay. And if you like the 44 millimeter case, that it's the medium case. I mean, they made also 40 millimeter case, but they have also 47 millimeter case. But the Luminor case, 45 millimeters, it is a nice case. Actually, it's a nice watch, and it fits good on the wrist because the lugs are short. So the case is big, but the lugs are short, so it fits quite good on the wrist. It is not so thin, but it's a really nice watch if you want to use it to swim, to walk around without problems. It's really a nice one.
I think it has to fit you and your style. I think what you like in watches. For me, it does not really speak to me so much. I think the history itself, I think, is really cool, like you already mentioned. I do think that, of course, there was a period where it was hyped a lot. I think nowadays nowadays there can be great deals to pick up sometimes. I think because people overlook them a little bit. So I'm curious because, of course, you're a dealer, and before we talk about that, maybe you can tell me what are your thoughts on the watch market at the moment? On like what are some brands or some watches that you think are still overlooked? What are some watches maybe that are overhyped a little bit? What are some of your thoughts?
No, I'm not able to predict future, so I don't know. Of course, it's not easy to analyze the market, because it's really made by too many things, too many dealers, too many buyers, too many markets. So of course we had particular years because the market went crazily high, and after that immediately started falling down. I think that there are brands that maybe had this hyper appreciation, but will still lead the market. So I don't think that AP, Rolex, or Patek will have in the long period of time will have problems about, and also the owner of these watches will be happy of owning it, and because they are high quality watches, and in general, I would suggest anyway to buy it. Of course, now it's difficult to understand if the prices will continually slow down or it will stop. So it will be easier for a buyer to feel safe about buying. So I don't know. It's I prefer vintage because the vintage market is much more easy to understand. So it's it had of course appreciation of value in a short time, but this will happen around 5-6 years ago, and then it is slowing down a bit. But in general, vintage watches has a more stable value, so it's easier deal with it. But of course, you have to understand and to recognize the quality of the watches. So it's more difficult to have the background that you need to do it. So
I agree. I think for me personally, it's not so much about if watches go up in value. I'm not that interested so much in that. I think when you're passionate about watches, that should not be the priority, and I think it's too much of a focus on it. So for me, I'm more meant. So what are some great buys? People that have like some money to spend. What are especially in vintage? What do you are? So watches are still overlooked in that sense.
wow. I would say maybe complete set watches that from maybe brands like Jaeger LeCoultre, IWC, and there are really lovely watches that you can buy for not a huge amount of money. We sold some of it along last year at the shop, and it's really interesting when you find this time capsule, I would say, watches that are still in great condition, and no one maybe cared about them for a long time, and you are able to let it show again, let it someone will appreciate them and enjoy. So I don't know. It's not easy to suggest a brand or maybe to suggest a model because all the models are still are already famous. Are already
Of course.
someone have talked about it already. So it's difficult to find new things that are really good. So maybe it's possible to find lines and models that still are not so much appreciated. Maybe the 16s are a period of time that has still nice watches that are not so much um, evaluated or.
What do you think about like the early power reserve watches from Giuseppe LeCoultre, like so like the Powermatics, the Futurematics? I personally like them. Had a few in my collection. Writing some articles and selling a few also in our shop. But I'm amazed, of course, at the first automated like power reserve like wristwatches. I think that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think Giuseppe LeCoultre is known for its movements, right? So I think there's a lot of interesting things you can find in this way.
Yeah. Jaeger LeCoultre is a really an amazing brand, and I have one in my collection. It's a Futurematic, and in steel. So it's a market LeCoultre, so it was for the US market. And it's okay. The design of these watches is amazing, and the movements are really, in general, not so much appreciated for the quality that they have. So I think that Jaeger LeCoultre is a brand that needs to be more appreciated by collectors. Yeah, because they did the really lovely things and always loyal to a style and to a design and to codes that they apply to watches, and so it's really hard to find a bad watch from Jaeger LeCoultre. So I think each collector should love this brand.
I agree. I think it's time a little bit to also talk about like you said you made the step to go from collector also to watch dealer. So why did you make this decision to do so?
Well, it was a casualty, I would say, because I met a guy with a shop in the center of Florence. Very funny guy, a very nice guy, who is Daniele, who is the owner of the shop that now we are using to sell watches. And he was always interested in watches, but he never met the right guy to start this kind of thing. And so I had another friend in Florence that is very skilled with all the social media, with all the picture, with all the commercial things. And so we met together, and we said that maybe we could try to do it, because we are a nice group. We are okay together, and that's the best important things, because otherwise it's a mess to do these kind of things. And the shop is in a really nice position, so it was really a good mix of good things. So it was an opportunity, and we decided to try it.
That's nice. How long ago did you start?
We started around 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, yeah, at the beginning of 2022.
That's nice. I'm curious, like in those 2 years, like what have been the most unexpected things to you that you've been surprised about as a watch dealer?
Well, maybe sometimes finding watches from clients that offers you the watch in the shop that you would not expect maybe to find. So sometimes it happened to us to find very nice watches from normal, I would say, people from not from collector, but from people that had the watch in the house. And this was unexpected and very nice, because thinking it when I was a collector, only collector, it was really hard to find sometimes these kind of things. So when it happens in the shop, it's you feel good about it. Yeah, it's not so common, but sometimes it happens.
Do you have an example of what kind of watches that you have found this way?
The last one, I would say it's a Breitling Navitimer with the value 72 from 1955 and MK 1.2. So it's a rare watch, and it was really in amazing condition, and we were astonished about it. So it was really amazing to buy it. Yeah.
That's really cool. Was it just a person that did not have a clue about this?
No, he had, but anyway, we were able to find a way to make it work. He knew it was a rare model. He knew the history of the watch, so but anyway, it was really amazing for us to have the opportunity to buy it and to propose it to our clients. Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you have like a goal in mind for what you want to do with the shop? What's the philosophy or what you're trying to reach?
Well, the philosophy is to try to keep the philosophy that we all had in collecting. So trying to offer very good things, and trying to offer quality, and try to spread all the good things that we love about watchmaking. So the craftsmanship, the history of the watchmaking. So we are more oriented to vintage, but so that's why. But of course, we want to have happy clients, so we are trying also to deal with modern watches. But anyway, we always try to decide about watches that we like. So also in the nowadays production, we don't choose. We don't buy anything that is proposed to us, but we decide what to offer to our clients. So the idea is to try to keep a high quality, and to have clients that are passionate about watches, like we were when we were collectors. So
I agree. I think you should sell what you love. Otherwise, you cannot be genuine in the connection and the enthusiasm of watches. I think it's important to keep that going. I
yeah.
guess the final question I have for you is like, let's say that you could only wear one watch for the rest of your life. What would be that watch?
Ah. Wow. I was not prepared about answering this question. Wow, only one is impossible. I don't think, no, nothing. I prefer to have my wrist without anything because no, one is not enough. If three, maybe it's possible, but one is not enough.
Okay, then three. What three would you keep?
Three, maybe an elegant high-end timepiece, like maybe this Longines or a Daniel Roth, maybe. One vintage chronograph and one vintage three-hands watch. This would be maybe possible for me, for my tastes, but only one. I would say if you had to decide one, it's Rolex Submariner. It's okay because you want to have it every day. It has to work for a long time, and you don't have to worry about it. So a Submariner would be the perfect model, I would say, because it's kind of perfect about designing and quality. So.
Yes, it's hard to beat the iconic status, I think, of the Submariner. But if you had to choose from your collection, the vintage chronograph and then the vintage freehander, which one would you choose?
Oh, maybe the vintage chronograph. I will say an Eberhard pre-extra port with the salmon dial and 3 counters, because it's a huge chronograph, 40 millimeter with the step bezel, and it is quite new condition, so this will be a good chronograph to use. And for the three hands, maybe I would say the Tartarugone Eterna. It's an 852 movement with it's kind of a 3 parts case, like the same philosophy of clamshell, but not with the 4 screws on the back, but with a ring that is screwed. And so it's a kind of clamshell case. So the crystal has a peculiar shape to keep the water away. And it's a nice watch, and it's called Tartarugone, like also Longines had this kind of watch, but in a huge case. And maybe the elegant one, it will be not easy for me to decide, but maybe this Lange that I have today on my wrist is it's quite a perfect watch, because I really love it so much, and the feeling of this watch on the wrist is amazing, because it's the weight is important, because also the movement weight a lot, and it's not with the bracelet, so you use it with the strap, so you feel this heavy thing, but it's not of course bad, and it's a nice feeling. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I really want to thank you for this conversation. Is there anything you want to say to the viewers before we end this conversation?
Okay. Of course, if any of our friends want to come to visit in our shop in Florence, we are LUXO Time Firenze. This is because we haven't told the name so far. And I thank you for the opportunity and for this nice chat. And I hope to see you in Florence soon, so we can grab a coffee together and keep going on this conversation.
That would be great. You're also always welcome in Amsterdam to have coffee here. Maybe not as good as over there, but still.
Oh, sure. Amsterdam is very nice. It's okay.
Thank you, and all to all our listeners. Please like and subscribe. You can also find us on Instagram at Renaissance Watches or at renaissancewatches.com. And thank you, and see you in the next time at WatchTalk.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.